Good afternoon, everybody. It's Friday, and Tim, I know I picked on you for that music, but I must admit, it made me feel very relaxed. So thanks for that, and welcome everybody for this amazing session that we're going to be having today. I'm Nadia Viren Patel. I'll be a facilitator. I'm literally just here to marvel at all of the great things Tim is going to show us today. So just a quick few housekeeping rules before we start, and before I go into my introduction for Tim is the bathrooms will be to your no, I'm joking. You know where your bathroom is. But we are online. We have muted everybody. So please, if you have questions, when you have questions, please be sure to put it into the Q&A section and not in the chat so we can keep track of that. If Tim answers your question within the session, we'll be sure to just let you know. If not, we have a Q&A session at the end. We've got 10 minutes to spare at the end, and Tim will be happy to then answer all of those questions. So just bear with us with regards to that. Also, this is a more of a tips and tricks, if you will. Tim's going to show us some really exciting things to boost our activity and our productivity on Teams. So please do not, go away. If you want to learn more impactful specialist solutions, we'll be happy to help you with regards to getting into courses that Tim runs that will be able to give you more information. But with that said, I'd like to introduce our esteemed, call it our very own MVP, portfolio manager, Microsoft portfolio manager, Tim Keys, who's all about maximizing productivity. He challenges us all the time to just make better use of not just Microsoft 365, but also Copilot in our daily work. He has over even though he only looks 35, he has over 30 years experience in teaching people how to use Microsoft products. He's begun his journey and his career as an applications trainer in 1996, long time ago, when it was still called Coopers and Library and Computer Services. I know some of you haven't even been alive this long, but that's how long Tim has been in this game. Due to his knowledge, experience, and ability to make things easy to understand, Tim is often requested by Microsoft to deliver workshops and presentations on behalf of Microsoft, and something that he has done in over 40 countries around the world. How amazing. Tim, interesting fact that I found out about you today is when you were younger, you actually took up ballroom dancing, and apparently his cha-cha skills is something to talk about. As Shakira said, Tim, the hips don't lie. So welcome, Tim, and thank you so much for having me as your facilitator. I really look forward to the session, and please let me know if and how and when I can help.
Thank you very much for that intro. Let me just share my screen so everybody can see the presentation. I've been warned about two things. One is I need to change my music. The second one is that I mustn't look at the questions in the chat. So I'm about to switch it off, but I do see somebody ask me about, can you record? We are recording this, and we will give you access to the recording of this presentation. So yeah, let's get going then with what we want to cover today. So please, as you've heard, please ask any questions. Our facilitator, the people who are looking at the chat will answer the questions for you. They also have good experience on Microsoft Teams, but also we'll allow 10 minutes at the end, as Nadia said. All right, so what are we going to do today? My job is to show you the changes that have just happened in Microsoft Teams. So while you were enjoying Christmas dinner, if you do celebrate Christmas, the Teams updated to a brand new view. I don't know how many of you have seen this and what you think about it. So what I'd like to do today, and I want to stress this, I'm going to make today as practical as possible. It doesn't take the place of an in-depth learning program. The idea is to show you what's new, show you how to leverage it, think about ways of how you can use Microsoft Teams in your daily work. Now, you'll know, you'll have heard Nadia say that I assign challenges to the teams here at LRMG. And I get, people get quite irritated with me. So what I'm going to do today is show you some of the challenges that we've implemented in LRMG and the numbers that we've hit. So for example, if you send me an email inside of LRMG and it could have been done in Teams, I don't respond. I just send a rather sarcastic comment, which is Teams, please, because we find that email's not in a very good, effective way of communicating internally, because it's difficult to keep a record. It's difficult to see that the person has actually interacted, fairly difficult to follow up, and it gets lost. So we say inside of our company, 80% needs to be done internally on Teams, 20% Outlook. So I'm going to show you some of these challenges that we look at. If you're going to use Microsoft 365, you need to use it in a certain way to maximize productivity. And I'm going to show you how that works. Then I'm going to show you what's changed in Teams. So there have been quite a few changes over the last 2 months, and there are changes happening over the next few months coming, which I will reference. Then I'm going to show you my tips and tricks that I use all the time. So how do we do this as an organization? What are the things we do with Teams? Some of it you might know, some of it you won't. But the idea is just to show you how to maximize. And then I'm going to make a few recommendations on how to think about Teams. And then finally, where you can get more information. Just by way of one final comment here is you must at this point have heard of Microsoft Copilot. I will every now and then reference Copilot as well and its relationship here inside of Microsoft Teams. Okay, so I hope you're all in the right room and this is what you were expecting. So let's start with the productivity challenges. And I would like you to consider this inside of your business because these numbers can be hit. Well, I've proved it because where we work with our clients, we set these targets and we show people how to do this. So the first one is your internal mails. You need to reduce them by at least 80%. How's that? So 20% of your emails or 80% should move into Teams. Because if you can communicate in Teams, Outlook isn't the better way of doing it. In fact, something we don't look at today, but is possible, you can also communicate externally with your customers and partners, also using Teams. So, Outlook plays a role for external communication, internal communication and collaboration. Teams is the way to do it. The second one is how long does it take you to complete projects? So how do you assign a task to a person? How do you decide what's got to be done by when? How do you follow up? How do you share project documents? How do you institute workflows? Now, great thing with Microsoft Teams is I'm going to show you the template. There's a brilliant Teams template, a project management template, which has all of the tools you need to manage projects. So you can easily reduce project time, again, by not having to telephone, send emails, and WhatsApp yourself silly. So that's the second target. The third one is if you're anything like me, you spend your life looking for stuff. Where's that document? Where's this template? Where's that proposal document? What's the latest one we should be using? So the target there, and it's my discipline, is if you structure it, you can put things in a place that's easy to find, that is secure, that is version controlled, and you can control who has access to it. So we look at how do you reduce the time it takes to look for things. And then the nice thing about Teams, and I have had arguments with people about this, by the way, is that Teams by default does not allow you to delete. So if you can delete anything in Teams, it's because your administrators have decided that's a good way to do it. Our best practice is don't allow delete that can't be undeleted. So in other words, even if you can delete, it'll do what WhatsApp does. It'll show you it's been deleted and it can be brought back. The reason is you want to audit what's happened. So you can't say, yes, I gave you this task. The person deletes it and says, no, you didn't. So Teams allows you to audit all of the tasks and conversations and things. And so that's the auditing. And then the last part is if I could save you up to 2 hours a day by making you more productive, what would you do with that time? And I'm going to show you it's very possible using Teams. So what are we going to look at? So the first thing I want to do before I'm going to give you lots of demos, 90% of today is demo. The first thing that I wanted to just give you an idea of is to have a look at the new Teams view. So I don't know how many of you have seen it or it's rolled out in your company. I will show you where it is and how you switch it on. But in the next couple of weeks between now and end of Feb, this new Teams view is going to roll out to everybody. So if you don't like this new view, you're going to have to resort back to the old view. So everybody's going to get the new view. You're going to have to say, no, I want to go to the old Teams view. By the way, some of the things going to happen in Outlook soon. So what has changed? Number one, the view is significantly different, which I'll show you now. So instead of having a separate place for your chats and for your teams and channels, all of that is now in a single view. Now, the reason they've done that is so you can create your own structure. Because if you've got a lot of teams and channels, it can get really busy. I worked with a company the other day. He had 320 channels, different channels in his company, and 64 teams. It's just not a way to manage your environment. And sometimes you get added to a team or a channel and you never use it again. So the idea is they put it in one view, but you're allowed to then customize that view. So you can bring in your important chats, you can bring in your important channels, and you can make it available and create sections. So that's a big change. The second one is the calendar. The new calendar in Teams looks like Outlook. So they've taken a lot of the features that are sitting in Outlook or that view, and they've brought it into Teams. The reason they're doing this is the long-term view on Teams and Outlook is that eventually the integration is going to be seamless. So all of your contacts that are sitting in Outlook will be available in Teams. So what they've done now is the view for your calendar is integrating between Outlook and Teams. So that whatever you put in Teams goes into Outlook and vice versa. So I'll show you that now. The other one, and I'd really like you to interact with me here because you can give me reactions. So how many of you really dislike the general channel? So you have this team and then the top channel is always general. And it's so difficult to figure out what is where because they're all called general. Come, thumbs up if you don't like the general. Am I the only one? Are you able to react? We might have switched it off. Okay, good. So we've got a couple of people who agree with me. So what they've done now, good news, you can rename the general channel. So even though by default, it'll create general, you can now rename general with the new view. So you can call it something that makes a lot more sense. So, by default, it'll create general. So if you're happy with that, you can leave it or you can rename it. The other one is that I don't know how many of you do presentations like I do. I'm glad to hear that. Sorry, I looked at the comments. Sorry. So when you look at the sharing of a presentation on one screen, if you share your screen, you can't see anything else. With this new version of Microsoft Teams, I'm going to swear at you a little bit here, but they've taken a feature out of Zoom where you will have the shared screen, and on the right-hand side, you will be able to see the comments and the people, etc. So that's a new feature as well. And then there's another feature they've stolen from Zoom, which I can't really show you, is I have this issue, is that often I'll share the screen but not share the sound. And what they've added to the shared view now is the ability to switch on sound and optimize for video. That's in the new Teams as well. So if you know Teams, have been using it a while, these are really helpful features. And then the last change, which is brand new, I'm going to talk to you about chat a lot today because I believe we should be doing a lot more in chat than we do. You know, to create a team and channels creates overhead on the system. So if you are just having a project conversation or a specific conversation with a group of people and you're not part of a team or a channel, you can use chat. Now, anything you share inside of the chat. So I'm going to show you something called Loop today. So Loop components are templates for things like minutes of meetings and task lists and things. Anything you share, so Loop components, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, documents, anything like that will be stored in a tab called Shared. So it won't say files anymore. The new name for the tab is going to be Shared. So I'm going to show you all of this today. All right, so with that, I'm going to show you everything we've been talking about, and I'm going to give you a demo. So this is my Microsoft Teams. I just want to make sure I've shared the right screen. Give me 1 second. Okay, so you should see my Microsoft Teams in front of you now. All right, so the first thing I want to show you is if your Teams doesn't look like mine, you need to be able to switch on that Teams view. So Microsoft is rolling it out by default, but what you'll see here is what I've got on the side here is what I was talking about, where I've created my own sections and the teams and channels information's here, and all of the chats that I don't really use at the bottom. So what I want to show you before we start is how you switch this on if it hasn't been made available to you yet. And I have put it in the slides to help you. But if you go to the options, the settings, next to your name, top right-hand corner, and you click on it, you'll see there's an option called settings. And right at the bottom, you'll see where I've got about teams. If you click on about teams, you'll see here that I've got the latest one available. So it's already given it to me. But if you haven't got it available, you can then switch it on here. By the way, if your company lets you, you can also ask to see stuff before anybody else gets it. So if you switch on this public preview, you get to test the teams before anybody else. So let me just show you where I got there. I went to the top settings. I went to about teams. That tells me the view that I've got. And if you haven't upgraded to the latest view, it'll give you the option there. It'll tell you, do you want to upgrade? And if you want to see early access, you can do it here. But you might have already got the new view. I know in ours, it updates it automatically. All right. Then what I want to do, first of all, is to take you through the changes in Teams. So before I take you through tips and tricks, I just want to show you where everything has shifted and how you use this team. So the first thing you will notice is that this left-hand side is totally different. So what you will see without me putting in all of these additional views is you will see just all of your chats, your teams, your channels, all in one view. Now, just a comment, if you don't like this at all, and there's some people who don't think like this, if you go back to settings and more, and you go to settings, there is the option here of changing that view. So in this case, you can see, the chats, etc. And here you can choose to go back to the other view. So if you click here, it'll give you the themes and appearance. But if you go to chat and channels, you can either combine it or you can separate them. So I went to the top, I went to the settings, and I went to chats and channels. And I've combined them. You can separate them. Okay. So now what you've got is this. So the first thing that happens is before you have to look out for all the dark areas or where you were mentioned, etc., to know who's talking to you. Now, what you'll see with mine immediately is I will guarantee that my teams is a hell of a lot cleaner than yours. Now, let me explain what I've done here. Is I've started by creating a section called All My Important Conversations. So what has happened here is I have a general conversation. If I want to talk to anybody in my company, I talk to them here. So I don't, there's certain parts of teams and channels that I don't want to, clog up. So we have a general, if anybody wants to talk junk and make comments and things like that, it all happens here. All right. Then if you look at my conversation, so Tracy and I are talking to each other all the time because she's my operations manager. So Tracy and I've got her there on speed dial. John Barnard is my salesperson, so I've got him on speed dial. Now, what I wanted to show you is here in the middle, you see Gina Alves. She's an external person, but I'm not going to show it to you because it's a sensitive project. But her and I are talking about a specific project we're on together. Now, she works for Microsoft. So my first tip for the day is, I don't know how many of you used to use Microsoft, what was it called before Teams? I've gone blank, where you could talk to each other. Now, please use it in the same way, because if I go here to the top and I say new message, when I type in a person, these people are inside my company, but if I put in another address here that's not part of this group, I can add them to this chat. So they just external. So if they've got Microsoft 365 and they're using Teams, I can get to access that. And if I don't want to chat to them, I can also phone them or have an immediate video call. So what you can see here is I've created the section. I've created my core conversations of people I chat to a lot. All right. Then I have specific channels that I use a lot. So you can see I've got my courses, which is my learning material. I've got my overviews. I've got my operations. These are channels. They're not teams. So what I've done is I've created important channels. I've named them. And now if you have a look at our overviews, if I click here, all of my overviews are in this one place. If you want to have a look at our courses, I'll show you our operations channel now. I can go to them really, really quickly. And where you'll see the rest of the mess is at the bottom. So I leave this open and I just collapse it. Now, I know what you're going to ask me. If I'm going to use all these chats here and store it up here, what happens to the chats at the bottom where people are talking to me and I need to know that that I need to respond? Instead of looking for the bold, which is how it was done before, you've now got a whole lot of search options at the top. So if you want to have a look at anything that is unread, I would click on that and your unread chats are sitting here. If you want information on all your channels, you can, where they've given you information in your channels and your teams, again, it would give it here. The same with chats. Now, the other thing that I can do here is, you know how sometimes you mention, so people will tag you at mention because it's really important you respond. All I have to do is click on at mentions here and it'll show wherever I mentioned. So what you'll see here is at any time I can filter my messages. So you don't have this enormous mess of teams and channels and chats all over the place. Then the other thing that I can do here is I've got a series of other filters. So you can see I can do that. By the way, I've got Copilot here because I've got a Copilot license. Microsoft is releasing a version of Copilot they call Copilot Chat, which will look at searching just like you do it now on the web, but they're bringing it into Teams here and it'll be in the same place. That's going to happen in the next little while. So even if you don't have the full Copilot for 365 or Microsoft 365 Copilot, and you have Microsoft 365, you will still be able to do some prompting inside of Teams, because Microsoft doesn't want you to go all the way out onto the web. So if you look here, if I click on my Copilot, you can see on here, it'll just take a sec. It's going to open Copilot inside of my Teams view. Now, this is the exact Copilot view that I have anywhere else. So now it's set up there. Now, I'm sure you're asking how the heck I do this. So here's the secret. I'm sure you've created chats at some point. If you click on new items at the top here, so you go to new items where the chat is. If you're using this view, you will be able to create a new message, a new channel. You'll be able to join a team. If you have rights, you'd be able to create a new team. But I want to show you why you don't need to create teams so much anymore when I show you the rename and how you can create private channels. And then you've got a new section. So if I go new section, I give it a name and I'm going to say impact at work. So if there's any conversations that come out of this and I want to put those chats in here, or I want to store documents or whatever else, I create a section I call impact at work. And that impact at work, I can move it to anywhere I want it. So if I want to bring it up here, I can bring it right to the top. If I want to rename it, I can. And then now that I've got the section, so I'm going to delete this because I want to show you somewhere else. Now that I've got the section, any chats that I have or any channels that I want to put into that section, all I do is I go to whatever it is. So let's say it's the chat. So in this case, this is my sales channel. So all my salespeople conversations happens here. Now, I don't want it here. I want it in important channels. So I click to the right, again, more options, and I say move it to and you can see the options I have. I want to move it to important channels. Now, again, if I want to, I can move these around. I can also choose, if you look at the options as well, if I really don't use it a lot, I can choose to hide it. And then I get a whole lot of other things that I could potentially do. So what I'm saying is, and I want to show you how a chat works. So let's say in this case, we've got the Sales Institute PR and Marketing. So I've started a chat, and I'll show you how I create this naming convention in a sec. But I've created a group or a chat called, say, PR and Marketing. And there are certain people, 3 people in that. And you'll see that when I open it, I've got all this information to the right. Now, if I want this to go into the section, this is now a chat. So now, again, I say take that chat and move it to important conversations, and you can see it's moved it up. So the logic here is create your business the way you think. So now I spend my day here. So if something pops up, I'll see it and I'll read it. If somebody's talking to me, I'll pick it up at the top. The reason that you notice I was caught up is that's how easy it is for me to manage my day. So that's the first thing you'll notice here, is that everything's changed where it's a single view, but you create sections and you move your important chats and channels into the specific section. Now, these don't have to be separate. So like in this case, I like separating my conversations to my channels. And then I've got another section I create, which is my customer section, where any conversation or customer or contacts. So any conversations I have outside of Sales Institute or Impactful, I put it in there. All right, so that's the first shift that I was talking about. The second thing I want to show you is this ability here to create private channels and rename them. Now, I hope you understand Teams well enough to know what I'm talking about. Is typically what happens with Teams is when you create a team where you only want certain people to get access, you have to create a private team. Or if you wanted to create a channel and you wanted to restrict access, you couldn't do it at a channel level. You could only do it at a team level. So what happened was you end up creating a huge amount of teams because you needed separate teams to create separate channels. Now, what happens in this case is they've changed this. So you can create a bigger team and then just create channels within it where the users can either come from the group or you can add those users. So what happens in this case is you create a big team. So I want to show you here where I've created test. So you'll see inside of test, let me just bring it up to the top. So inside of test here, you can see I've got contracts. All right. So this now, everybody who's part of my top team has access to contracts. Now, if you understand teams, you can see I've renamed this general channel. So all I did was this was general. I went to edit channel and I renamed it. So it was general, I renamed it to contracts. Now watch here. I'm sitting on test. I want to create a new channel. So when I create a new channel, I'm saying I want to create it as part of test. So it then says that's done. Now when it looks at the members, so I want to give it a name and I say, this one's going to be called demo. Sorry. So this one's called demo. I give it a description. Then here I can choose who gets it. So I can say, I can share it with people in your organization or outside. So I can allow it external, or I can create a private channel. So if I create a private channel and I create it, I can now add people to this. So I just want a private channel that myself and Tracy are part of. So now I've created a private channel inside of the team. Now, the reason this is so important is if you know teams really well, when you create a team like this, it creates a whole lot of stuff in the back end. It creates a group, a SharePoint site, all sorts of things in the back end, which adds to all of your overhead. So you don't want to have hundreds and hundreds of teams, because all you can do now is create inside of your team. I've now created a private channel. The other thing that happens is I can, if I choose to allow external, I can create a private channel that allows for external and internal. Now, please, I need to make this very clear. If you want to look at that on how you allow external people access to your teams, you do need to talk to us about the technical requirement. The administrator's got to do some stuff there. It's not something you can do as a user by default. But the nice thing here is we don't recommend that everybody creates a team. We recommend that within the team, allow people to create their own channels. So now you can create a channel around a specific project. You can bring in specific people as long as they're part of the original team. So the idea here is we've created a team. Now I create a channel, and that is a secure channel just specifically for those people. This is a deal breaker, a game deal breaker. It really changes how we use teams, where you will focus more on channels versus teams. And then just to make a comment, if you find that this is just too busy, so, you have too many teams and channels. If you've got too many channels, like you don't use contracts a lot, you can hide it. So it'll now show as head. And if you want to bring it back, you just click on see all channels. You'll see here it'll pop up as hide, and I can just unhide it. So you can see I can toggle between hide and show. So I wanted to show you that now what happens is you create the structure, you can create a channel, and you can rename the channel, and you can make your own private channels. Right. So those are the big shifts that's happened with Microsoft Teams as it stands. Now, what I want to do over the next few minutes is show you how we achieve those objectives of the less emails, better communication, better project management, better sharing of information using Teams. Because my advice to you is get people inside your company to go to Teams by default, that this is where you communicate with each other. Outlook is for external chats with people you don't know so well. But I use Teams to talk to people who know 365 and internally. We also insist that we don't talk to each other on WhatsApp. We talk to each other on Teams Mobile. Because again, same thing. I can't audit WhatsApp. I can't have shared folders and stuff as part of my business sitting in a WhatsApp post. It really isn't the way to run your business. So what we're saying is get your people and you as the user, get used to working in Teams. Use this to communicate and collaborate, and use Teams Mobile to talk to people internally. Now, the first thing I want to show you on how we work is you don't have to create hundreds of teams and channels, because teams and channels are very structured. So if you have a sales team, you're going to create a sales team. If you have, operations, you'll create one for ops. But let's say I need to talk to somebody in the company where it's a specific quote we're doing. It's not necessary to go and create a whole team and channel for that. So I want to show you how you use chat. So if you go to the top here and you go to new items, you create a new message. Now you'll see that it's saying, who do you want in the message? So let's say I want to talk to people here about a specific topic. So I'm going to bring in John. I'm going to bring in Mr. Lasky. I'm going to bring in Colin, and I'll leave Tracy out of it. I'll bring in David. All right. Now, this doesn't show me anything. So please, here's a tip and trick I'm giving you for nothing. If you click on this drop-down arrow to the right, you can name the group. So let's say this is about the Teams session follow-up from today. So I now want to talk to people about this. It's only for today. We want to discuss this particular topic. So when I create this, I've now created a group name called Team Session Follow-up. Just a comment here, you have to have at least 3 people, you plus 2 more. So now I could make a comment here, say, let's meet, for example. And you can see here, I can add formatting. So I can bold, italics, whatever else. I can add emojis. I'll show you in a sec about, in my case, because I've got Copilot, I can write with that. This is the loop I was talking about. And if I want to attach a file or a video clip or anything else, plus there are a lot of other things I can do here. But in this case, I just want to attach a file that would be, for example, this customer listing, people who attended. So when I send this, you can see I've now got a team session follow-up, and it's now created the spreadsheet. Now, I can then choose to meet with everybody in a video or an audio call, or I've got all these options here. I could schedule a meeting and do all of these things in my group. Now, remember I said to you, you have shared. So now people can chat to me and share their documents and things. And we're only talking about this team session follow-up. Then when I go to share, you'll see there's my Excel spreadsheet. And only the people who are part of the group are in the shared folder. And you can see here it can be recent files, links, and I can filter by keyword and upload documents. So please, when you're using Teams, you don't have to create a channel for everything. You can create your own channels, chats. You can add people to your chat and you can communicate with them. And you can see that the chat is now, you can see it's going to create it here for me. So there's my team session follow-up. I want to add that again. I move it to important conversations, and I can move it to the top here. So that means that the team session follow-up, every time I want to chat, I just click on here and go to that team session. Now, I mentioned to you this concept of loop. I don't know if you've used loop, but what it does is we're in a chat here. Let's say that there's a task list we need to create. So we're going to create tasks for this particular project. So we want to create a task list of who's got to do what. So what Loop is it's a series of predetermined templates that you can bring into your Teams chats. So either through chat or through your channels. And you can see some of the examples here. And by the way, if you know what you're doing, you can create your own. Again, it's a very advanced feature, but you can see there are a lot available here. So I go task list. And now we've got inside of this chat, we've got a task list. So let's say in this case, we've got to work through the list. That gets assigned to me, and it's got to be done by whenever. Now, here's the cool thing. It goes into my to-do bucket, and if you know anything about Planner, I'm going to pick up that task in my Planner view, which means that all tasks that are assigned to me inside of the business, I'm going to see in one place, plus my own tasks. I'm going to show you that now. So I hope that's not overwhelming. So let me summarize. What I'm saying is you need to set up your environment. You need to create your sections, and you need to move things around that make sense to you. And then you can collapse anything else that is messy. All right. Then when you create a chat, add people to the chat. You can do so much here that we would normally put into a channel. It's not necessary. You can do it through a chat. And as I showed you, you can bring in external people into this chat. So that is a really important feature. Now, the other thing I want to show you in Teams is the new calendar. So you would have been used to the old calendar. So if you haven't seen this, hopefully you'll be impressed. This is the new calendar view. Now, by the way, if you want to know how to switch it on, like with Outlook, top right, it'll show you to switch it on and off. Now, I want to show you what you can do with these meetings. So I'm just going back to one that I did here. So this is my calendar view. Now, I want to show you how different the view is. So this is a typical view. What it's doing now is it's giving me links to the conversation related, as well as when I go here to the options, you can see you have all of these options. You'll see there's a meeting options. So if you're setting up an appointment and you click on meeting options here, this is a new feature. Let me just show it to you that allows you to set up the options. So now what you can do, who can talk in chat, you can mute everybody's microphone. There are a whole lot of settings. Do we record by default? So before you set up the appointment, you click on options and you can set up what you do with that particular meeting. So if people are going to dial in, can they bypass the lobby so you don't have to let them in? Who can admit people? There's this thing called a green room, which allows you to talk before you launch the meeting. Can unverified participants join? No. This used to be a big security problem in Teams. Can you allow for mic, etc.? So if I wanted to show you the new view for the appointment, so if we go to, again, I can set this up. So you can see that it's a lot more like Outlook now. So if I go to today and we set up an appointment for today, so for 1 o'clock, this is what the view looks like. So if I open it, it gives me the title, the attendees, the information for the meeting. So I can insert documents, pictures, a whole lot of information, insert an agenda, which again is that loop component. So I can do so much more in the meeting. and I can say it's got to be a Teams meeting. So I can then invite the attendees and I can add a title. Now, here's a brand new feature. If you like pictures, you can actually start creating icons. Okay. So that gives you an idea of what you can do. Now, there's one more thing that I want to show you because I've been given the "you're talking too long" message. So the one other thing that I want to show you is you can add in your channels and in your on the right-hand side or left-hand side other features. Now, there's one thing I want you to go look at, please, is go and have a look at what is known as Planner. So I wouldn't have time to show you this planner. And quite frankly, I think we should add this as one of our topics, because what you do with Planner is you manage your whole day here. So you'll see here that my day, anything I need to get done will be here. The tasks that have been assigned to me by people in my company and plans that I'm part of. It's all done through a product called Planner. And so I can here manage my whole day. And this is where I allocate resources to people. So using Planner, I can create a new plan and I can create one of these and I can give people access to tasks. So I just wanted to show you that. Please go and have a look at it. I want to show you how you switch it on and then I'll be done. So you go here to apps, you click on apps, you type in Planner, you click on it here, and you then ask it to join it to Teams. Now, I've already done it, so I open it. And once you've opened it, so there's your planner now, you just want to pin it to the left-hand side. Now, very last thing for the day. I want you to play with some of the templates available. So I want to show you one of the templates we have in terms of our teams and channels. So we have an operations team, and I just want to show you how we use this product. So this is our general. This is where we store all our operations documents. So anything related to operations sits in files here, our templates and things like that. And I will see it. So when I open tasks here, the tasks assigned to me here will be in my planner. Then we have an operations notebook, which is a OneNote. And finally, we share our customer details here in case you want to know the details. Now, I can't show you all of this today, but I want to show you how easy it is to put things in one place. Your files, your documents, your information, your tasks in the Teams is just so incredibly powerful. Right, so the last slide on my advice. Let me just share this and then we'll open up for questions. I nearly made it. So I want to show you the 10 things you want to do, and we will share this recording with you. The 10 things you want to do is use chat. Instead of Teams, create private channels, plan your design, clean up. If you're collaborating and do it in Teams, use Planner. Communicate through your customers and partners through Teams. Be explicit means be very clear on your communication. Use Teams Mobile. I had this fight with LRMG many times a day. And make Teams your default view for your day. So you will see later on, if you say, Tim, that was overwhelming, Brew, how do we learn about Teams? There we do have a course that I run, and Tracy, my colleague, runs. We both specialize in Teams, and we've got some really good people inside of Impactful that we've skilled up on this, which is a full day on how to use Teams properly. So it's not a basic click this, click this, click that. It's all these applied skills that I've been talking about. If your administrators want to learn how to set it up and the governance and all of that, you have Microsoft Teams Admin. So this is a technical course. So if you go to our website, which is the Impactful website, and you look at courses and certification, you'll see both these courses. If you want to talk to us about customizing something and taking you through some advanced Teams features, please make contact with us and we'll gladly help you. Good. So next topic, we're going to talk about Copilot. And then do you want to talk about this, Nadia, about giving us the feedback, please?
Thank you so much, Tim. And that was amazing. But before I go into my comments, there's a QR code on your screen at the moment. We've also popped the link into the chat box. Please, please, please just take a few minutes of your time to just fill in our survey and rate Tim for us. And Tim, what a phenomenal job, because I learned so many things, by the way, in your session. I just want to reiterate to a lot of people who did get a bit lost. I know some people were following on their own, is that this was a particular updated version of Teams that Tim had showed us. And if you didn't find some of the features, it's because you probably have a later version. That's right, correct. Hey, Tim?
So just the point, everybody has this available to them now. You have to switch it on, which you'll see in the recording, or you have to speak to your administrator. It's going to happen by default soon. So
Okay.
if you haven't got it, it's going to happen in the next few weeks.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Before I jump into the questions as well, I particularly like the fact that you brought up WhatsApp, because I have this fight all the time with people as well. I have Teams on my phone, and I do not particularly like when people, external people get hold of me on my WhatsApp, because I do believe that's a really personal thing for me. So I'm glad you brought it up, and thank you for reiterating it. But Tim, I hope you're ready for some questions.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with Angela's question. Angela asked, we use Teams sites where the external people who require access changes frequently, but the files and the information within the channels stay unchanged. For example, one Teams site for ever-changing groups or external people. This is the question. Do you know of another way for external people to access Teams sites without changing tenant ID?
Without changing the tenant ID.
Yeah, without. Yes.
So you're talking about when you're adding users to it?
Yes.
We'll have to, okay. So please let me take that one offline. Not that I don't know the answer, but it's quite a long answer. So please, if you don't mind, will you get whoever asked that question, please get the detail. I'll sit with our technical specialist and put a decent answer together for you. By the way, the reason that it sounds like I'm avoiding it, we're doing the exact same thing for a client right now. So you'll get the benefit of that document. So the answer is yes, it can be done, but it's a specific configuration.
Perfect. Thanks, Tim.
What is this Teams version?
Yes, someone
Sorry,
asked
I'll get
that.
there.
No worries.
Yeah.
Angeline Wood has asked, I don't have the down arrow next to the box to allow me to start the message.
So when you create the chat, it doesn't give you that option. Oh, I know why. You have to have more than 2 people in the group. So when you create a chat, it's got to have a minimum of 3 people connected. Otherwise, it doesn't allow you to name it.
Okay. Susan has asked, can you create breakaway rooms in Teams meetings? Yes, you can.
The answer is hell yes. And good news, if you are a Zoom, whoever, Microsoft in the next 3 weeks, the entire group section, that whole breakaway is being redone, relooked at, relaunched. So whoever asked that question, please send me an email as well. The new version of it is brilliant. The other breakaway was fairly limited. The new one, really, really strong. It's going to match them.
Yeah, we've used it recently at LRMG, and it works really, really well. And the features are very similar to what it was with Zoom, with the countdown and all of those things.
Yeah,
and
it's busy rolling out
goes
now.
back.
It's giving you a lot more flexibility with the rollout. So the users that you allocate and things like that.
Yeah, perfect.
There's one other question I just want to bring up that I read. The question around when you assign tasks, can you see their availability? Not in this version that you get with Teams. So to do that, there's a a next level plan, unfortunately. So in this case, you can allocate tasks to them, but it's not a formal project management, unfortunately.
No worries. Thanks, Tim. And then, and I apologize if I don't get the name correct, Riane has asked, what is the version that is
Yeah, let me check
of Teams
quickly.
called? Yeah, she's looking
I'll give it to
for
you
IT
right now. If you go
administrator.
to About Teams, you'll find it. Let me just, I'll send this, put this in the chat.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it.
Here's the version. That's the latest one.
That's perfect. Awesome. So Rihanna, you can just actually take that and just send that screenshot over to your administrator. Thanks, Tim. That was brilliant
Oh,
as usual.
sorry, there's a question here on recording. Elizabeth, can I answer that quickly? The currently the way Teams works is you either switch recording on or off. So in other words, you can by default enable recording, you can switch recording on. It becomes an all or nothing. There is a Teams Premium Edition. And if you have very serious security issues, Teams Premium allows you to manage control security settings. So you can control who watches the recording, who doesn't, who's allowed access, what resources they have. But that is an add-on to Microsoft Teams. You pay, I think it's $10. Is it $7.50, I think, per month for it? It's called Teams Premium that you need to have a look at.
Everything's premium these days. Tom, it's not in the Q&A, but I thought it was a really interesting question. Is these features available on mobile?
Again, I'd have to go match them. Mobile's optimized for using Teams Mobile, so it's not an either or. So Teams Mobile gives you the most incredible additional ability. We did a project the other day for a company on a farm, and they used Teams Mobile to take a picture of damaged fruit and then geotag it, put a line around it, and it started off a workflow. Now, Teams Mobile, they're in the middle of nowhere in the Western Cape. Teams Mobile allowed them to do that. So
wow.
Teams Mobile doesn't replace Teams, and the Teams web view doesn't have all of the features that the Teams desktop view has. So they are focused for very specific requirements.
Okay, perfect.
Tandy, what happened there? You don't understand what happened to all that? To all the chats?
I think so we may have missed some questions because people popped them into the chat instead of the Q&A. But if I look at that one, Tandy's asking, I still don't understand what happens to all the old teams that we created before Teams changes to chat.
No. The chat, when you look at what I was talking about, I'm saying use chat more. So instead of creating a whole lot of teams and channels, rather create a chat if it's not a formal thing. You'll still keep all your teams and channels. So the new version doesn't get rid of teams and channels. You still use teams and channels. It's just one view. So it's called chats, but you get your chats and your teams and channels in one view. The teams and channels doesn't disappear. It's all there.
Historical data is safe.
Yeah.
It is safe.
Patricia, I will do that. We will type out the answers and send to you. She asked about, can we get the answer to the questions? Yes, perfect. We'll type it out and send it to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Tim. That was amazing. I learned so much. I always do. Yeah, I always learn so much from you.
Thank you.
So really appreciate it. And for all of you who joined us, we appreciate you taking out your time, being here. We hope you have a fabulous Friday and an even better weekend. Thank you so much, everybody.